Hello again, my friends. Once more, welcome back to the cellar, back to Leopard Street. I started laying out the goods area. It's not stuck down yet. Let's make a goods shed. This is Leopard Street. Okay, here we are at the desk. Now, I've been wanting to do this for a couple of weeks, actually, because I need this to help plan out the goods shed. So what we have, Metcalfe, Papa Oscar 232 goods shed. A small country goods depot printed in full colour, including weathering, detailed inside and out, HOOO. On the back, we've got a shed with a little office, a little bit of a platform, and a weighbridge. And it gives you the dimensions on the back. I'm going to build it, however, rather than trusting some of those dimensions. Not because I think those dimensions are wrong, but because I think it's a lot easier to position things when you've got the actual model. As always, getting into these things is a little bit awkward, but never mind, we'll get in there in the end. I don't really care about the box. Packaging, let me just find a bin. There's always loads of this stuff on the bins. Now, I'm going to show building this thing. I'm not going to destroy the package to get into it. What I'm not going to do is talk through the whole build, because I don't know how long this is actually going to take. What I'm going to do is we'll have a little look. I'm going to mention some key bits, and then I'm going to speed a lot of this up, because you don't need to see me gluing bits of card. So, if you've never seen one of these kits before, they are quite good. They're fairly simple to build. You tend to get, well, there's three sorts of things in it. There's this sort of thing, which is card printed on one side, and you get some bits where you're supposed to cut it. Most of it's pre-cut. Some of it is you're supposed to cut it. Some bits down here are folding, which will give you double layered cards so you can get the inside and the outside. Some nice vents there we'll have to do something with. Look at the instructions. That's a printed sheet. That's just laser cut card. I'm going to guess that's roof trusses. Pack of ridge tiles. They're common to an awful lot of kits. So you get a couple of choices. Windows. Clear acetate sheet. You then get sheets like this, which is just grey board. Provides strength to things and gives extra thickness to it. Another printed sheet. Little platform piece. I don't know quite how big that platform is. And then we have another printed sheet. And finally, some destructions. Now, there's one thing they tend to suggest on these that I don't do. They tend to suggest breaking all the pieces out first. I don't. I'll take them off the sheet as I'm going. They sort of recommend glue. Yoo-hoo gets mentioned. I use Bostik. Grips a little bit quicker. And you'll also want a kniff. The instructions are pretty good. What I would say is always have a read of them before you do anything. Yeah, so they're recommending Yoo-hoo and some other glue for the glazing, but this is how I tend to do it. Yeah, so you can see here you're going to put an outer wall, you're going to put a grey card wall over it, you're going to fix glazing, and then you're going to fix the inside on it. It's going to be quite a thick wall. Should be fairly strong. I am also going to be fitting lighting into this. As often with me saying I'm going to fit lighting into it, what that actually means is I'm not going to be gluing the roof in place. I have to have a little look at how to do it. I think the main area is going to get a couple of lights. The office will get a light, and the little weighbridge will get a light. There's some nice little steps and other bits and pieces as well. Chimney pots. I do need to actually get around to fitting those. I never seem to remember to fit them. I do need to get around to fitting them. Anyway, let's crack on with it. So the first bit is this outer brick fascia wall. Two outer sections that wrap around. So what we've got here, that is definitely an outer section. So that is all of that. And there's two of them, as you can see on here. Now, this isn't actually a cutting mat. I need to find my cutting mat. which is here. This green mat is actually a silicon heat mat. I use it when I'm soldering. So what we've got here is it says cut. So the simple solution is lining up on that. Now the cut lines are partially cut. And what they've done, they do this so the printing goes over the bit you need to cut. And that top piece I don't need straight away. Is that all going to come out? Very nice and gentle, that piece will. You do want to be a little bit careful, as that piece has fallen out already. You do want to be a little bit careful with this. Partially so you don't cut the wrong pieces. But also some of these bits, when they're in this state, can be a little bit fragile. Because they're just basically thin card. That didn't cut particularly well. I got that piece. Anyway, I'm going to cut this piece out and we shall be back after that. Right, so we now have this bit. And that's basically the outside of the goods shed. I must say, I wasn't expecting it to be this way. I was sort of expecting the walls to be separate from the ends, but yeah, fair enough. Right, now, what does it say to do with these here? 2 outer-facing sections that wrap around the middle. Each has door openings that fold around the inside of the building when the gable walls are attached. Right, so what it says to do is lightly score. I mean, these lines are scored already, but score these lightly. You don't want to cut through them to make sure it folds later. And then don't get over enthusiastic with the glue. It says fold these white pieces around like so to create a double thickness. But we're not doing the rest of it. I get the impression what's going to happen is these will wrap round inner pieces. A couple of big bits came out. Don't know if they're useful for anything, but I suspect they might be. So I'm going to keep hold of those. And what I've got under here somewhere are some clips. So I'm going to stick these bits. Yoo-hoo is a little bit stringy. Sorry, Bostik is a little bit stringy. Yoo-hoo is also a bit stringy, so you need to be a little bit careful with it. That then goes around there. I prefer Bostik because it grips quicker. You could, if you were so inclined, make this using Copydex. It'd work. I'm not sure I'd recommend it, but it would work. Well, it'd be card work. It wouldn't really be woodwork, if that makes sense. But yeah, anyway. Right, so let's stick the other side of these. Now, what I'm actually going to do is do them separately, because I can then leave it a little bit. So again, score this. And this is step 1. It's got quite a lengthy set of instructions, so I suspect there's quite a few more steps. But, yes. So I'm starting work now more and more on the goods yard at Leopard Street. The track work is laid out loosely. I'm going to be gluing all of that down and soldering all of that shortly. Put that in there like so. Right. So as I say, I'm going to carry on with this. I'm going to put this in fast forward with a bit of either dodgy music or an even more dodgy voiceover. So point, I'm just letting some glue dry. One of those things that you have to do now and again. These side pieces especially are going to need glue to dry them a little bit. So let's have a little look. And incidentally, I do rather think I've got these vent pieces glued on upside down. However, I wanted them to be consistent rather than anything else. So let's have a look at the next bits. Side walls, while we wait for those to dry. Here. No. You do tend to end up needing rather a large desk to make this stuff. Here we go. I think this is the side wall. That looks like an inner side wall. Incidentally, keep all the grey board bits. I'd keep all the scrap pieces. It's amazing how useful they are later for lining things up a bit. Right, so that goes there. It says to glue that on. And then the glazing goes on the inside there. Now that is going to mean that's quite recessed. Yeah, that's fair enough. And these, the doors will help with aligning that. So let's glue this on. That bit there. That bit there comes out as well, which I hadn't quite realised. There we go. Saves working that out later, gives me the arch. Right. Glue, it's fairly easy to apply. You want to make sure, though, that you get a bead of it around the edges. If it's going to come apart anywhere, it's going to be at an edge. So you make sure you get all of the edges glued. Around there, around here, that, and then just swiggle around in the middle bits. Just helps hold it all together. So that then goes over there, stands up, doors go through. You can fold the doors around. They don't fold around perfectly at this point, but better than nothing. And it says make sure all edges are absolutely flush. And yeah, it's the same size piece. So yeah, want that down. And again, that really needs glue to dry just a little bit. But while that dries, now it notes with the glazing sheets, sticking them on here. The glazing sheets are double-sided. There is a printed side and a non-printed side. You want the printed side facing outwards. Reason for that is it helps stick it all together, and it gives you the matte glazing of the windows on the outside. Here I need 2 of these. And it notes also, I mean, you may think this sheet is incredibly wasteful. It actually specifically notes in the instructions that these pieces are oversized because they also act as spacers, very slight spacers, between the different layers. So there is method to the madness, so to speak. But the one thing about these windows, they are remarkably clean. So when I come to weathering this, I'm going to have to dirty the windows up quite considerably. Very, very simple to do. Acrylic wash on the inside of them. Or even on the outside, actually, as well. It's a bit of both. You put the wash on the outside and it takes the shine off the glazing. Put it on the inside and it just dirties the window but leaves the outside of it glossy. So really, it's a question of what effect do you want. Personally, I'll probably do both. Because, yeah, I need 2 of these window pieces here. Now, this stuff is acetate sheet. This is where if you use things like rocket car glue, which apparently is really good, but I must say I've never used it. I don't think any of the shops I shop in stock it. Yoo-hoo I've got from Amazon because I tend to buy it in bulk. It's cheaper to get a box of these tubes than it is to worry about buying too many of them. But yeah, that's that. So these here, this is the shiny side, that's the smooth side. So what I'm going to do is glue these on. And you have to, a little bit of judgment on this. What you want on the outside is to see a little bit of the frame all the way around, which is obviously a little bit awkward to do from the inside, but it is doable. And then again with the glue, since I know this is quite a large piece, around there, and it'll sandwich in nicely. Not too near the center. Again, make sure I've got it the right way round. Line it up roughly, press it on a little, turn it over, and then do any final alignment, and then just squish it down fully. And you've got a window. And unlike a Microsoft window, this one will stay put. Anybody thinks I've been having fun and games with that this week? Congratulations, yes. It's, yes. And then dealing with the various people who love to make excuses for all this modern technology not doing what it's supposed to do, and blaming users for, it would be perfectly all right if only you knew how to deal with it. Well, to be honest, it should just work. Right, so that is the front. Now this, it says loading edge outer side wall. These obviously go inside there, which gives it a little bit more depth. That now needs the inside wall cutting out, which is down here. Put that out of the way. Yeah. There are a remarkable number of layers on this. Now, I've mentioned before, I'm used to putting kit buildings together. I tend to be putting MDF ones together for tabletop gaming, which a little bit of a different use case to this. Those buildings are designed to be robust, shall we say. I'm not saying they're designed for ham-fisted cretins to use without breaking, but I'm quite pleased they can be used by a ham-fisted cretin without breaking, put it that way. Right, so that's going to go on there. And then it says they glue around, so you get a brick pillar on the inside. That is going to be quite a thick wall. It's 3 good layers of card and some glazing. So we're going to stick this together. I'm not going to glue these in a flat down just yet. I will be doing, but not just yet. So what we do is a bit of glue around here and onto the plastic, because obviously the plastic is raised up. Indeed, that's probably actually where the bulk of this is going to stick. But I am going to do the rest of it as well. So yeah. And I don't know how much glue you need. You don't need ridiculous quantities of it, but you do need enough. It's a little bit hard to describe in many ways. Right, I'm going to fold those around because that helps hold it in place. What I'm now going to do is transfer my clips from those end pieces onto here. I do have more of the clips. I'm not entirely sure where they all are at the moment, but there we go. So this can all come together. But it is well worth having some clips. Clothes pegs, they'll work just as well. If that's what you got, that's what you got. Clothes pegs. Just grab that. That can sit on the top piece. So, and then I need something to grip the bottom. Unfortunately, I don't have any more clips. I used to have loads of them. I'm not sure where they all ended up. There were absolutely tons of them. I'm just going to have a quick look and see if I can find some more. They're not where they used to live. I'm not sure where they've ended up. I found another one. Only another one, but that'll do. So yeah, ta-da! Right, that's that wall. And these are now dry, so I can carry on with this bit. A little bit of planning when you're putting one of these together, just for the ordering of things. So I think I've got those the wrong way up, but I'll live. And then that slots there and gives you the depth. It's notable it's actually a slightly different colour brick. Now the outer brick's a bit pinker and the inner one's a bit redder. I'll have to have a little play with that when we're sorted. And then these bits here will come around and give the entire brick frame. All of these little white edges, they're all going to get work done to them at the end. Now it says to make sure you line this up at the top. So that's what we're going to do. But here, again, glue, 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 glue. Now, one of the things I would suggest if you're going to put any of these kits together is check how much glue you've got before you start, because what you don't want to be doing is getting about halfway through it and realizing you've run out of glue, because that's annoying. Been there, done that. It is quite irritating. And when dropping these on, what you don't want to do is slide it about too much, because you're trying to avoid getting glue on the bits you can see. So that goes there. Those doors will glue over. For now, I'm just doing that just to help hold them down. And you do need to be careful with this. You want to watch it as things are drying. If you just leave it sometimes, especially if you're using PVA type glue, you'll find it warps. And you don't want that. You want it to stay dry. Right, that's there. So that I'm just going to have to hold. So we'll fast forward again while I wait for this to dry. At least dry enough to grip. And then I can do the other one. And we'll carry on. And as you can see, that is quite a thick piece of structure now. Windows are nicely encapsulated. Yeah, that's going quite nicely. So I'm going to put that over there with a couple of bits and pieces on it just to act as weight. Don't have anything particularly heavy around here. Last jar of pens, that'll do. The idea is to make sure, as I say, it dries flat. If it doesn't dry flat and it warps, you're never taking that warp out of it. So that's just something to be aware of. This isn't something you're going to bend back later. Now, solvent-based adhesives are pretty good for this sort of thing. Card ones work, yeah, sort of card glues, but you're gonna have some problems. As if like a wet glue is going to cause you a few issues. Nothing too serious. I mean, you can put these things together. You just need to be a little bit aware of the fact you might have some problems with the paper going a bit soggy, because this is just card after all. And here we got this one here is now dry, or at least it's not fully cured, but the glue is dry enough. Now those bits need to fold over, but again, I'm going to need the clips to hold them. So what I now need to do is, well, finish this one. It's running low on clips. And I also need to put this side in over here. Should do the other end. I expect this is actually going to be quite a robust building when it's finished. Just from the fact that most of the walls seem to be 3 or 4 card thicknesses. Right, that's the next bit. This one is going to need the windows doing. Mm-hmm. Now, hopefully, as you could see as I was putting that together, the card has a natural tendency to want to warp a little bit. But that's another wall. I've got the glazing the right way round, I think. Again, that now needs to dry. Or at least, again, it's got to dry enough. So I'm going to put that to one side. I'm putting out a desk space here. I'm used to making these kits in N-gauge. The N-gauge ones are definitely easier in some ways. But yeah, you see that's now, I mean, that's actually a pretty rigid slab of card. So that's pretty good. I'll leave the weights on it for now because why not? Right. This one's got to go in here. So I'm going to wait a minute for this because I want that glue to dry because I want to use those clips. And we'll see this. I'm going to carry on with the destructions and have a little look and see what's next. Get in here. So yeah, as expected, you put it all together. Yes, and as it notes here, using the card that came out of the window fittings as bracing pieces. And then the inner platform goes in. Yeah, that all makes sense. I am going to have to modify this slightly. As I've said, I'm going to fit lighting into this building, so I need a way of getting the lighting wires in somewhere they're not going to be that visible. My thinking is going to be running them up a corner up here. I could run up the corner around here, so we've got that around. Is run the wires up here. You might. My concern is more you might see them slightly there, whereas if they're in an actual corner of the building, you probably won't. And I can paint them to look like pipe or something. Especially if I use single core cable, because this has got a platform. I can route it using cable and just bring it down here into a connector that sits under the platform. And that means the building can sit still. There can be a little bit of excess wire down here so I can lift it up, plug it in without too much difficulty. That's the thinking. What it means is I'll just have to notch the platform slightly in one corner so that I've got a hole for the wires to go down. Because when it's all put together, trying to drill a hole, it's just going to make a mess. So yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it this way. Right. Back in a minute. Right, now, a slight problem. I think I've stuck this piece down in slightly the wrong place and should probably have waited till I got this in. I think, let's try this side. Yeah, see, this side fits. Is that's supposed to go in against there, whereas at this side it can't. So what I have to do is trim a little off of that in a minute. But the idea is this then goes on here, and you sort of hold it square, clip it, and it goes on, and that gives you an outer wall. And you've got to do the same on that side. I say that's going to need trimming slightly on one end, just to make that fit properly. So I'm going to do that now. Cheers, Mr. Ruler and Mr. Kniff. Yeah, so if you're going to build one of these, fold these inner pieces round afterwards, is what I'd say to that. Yeah. So I've not measured this, but here we go. This is going to take a little while because of how many layers there are here. But this is very much the beauty of card kits. They're very, very easy to modify. So that now fits there and goes in there quite nicely, you see. So that's that. I've got a little bit of a gap there. Like I say, this is where I'm planning on running the wires down. I suppose thinking about it, I could have actually, in fact, I actually have got a slot. I could probably feed wires through there. Bring them out this top piece. Unintentional, but actually, this will bring wires out up into this bit here where I can feed them up into the roof. I like that. Right. As I say, unintentional, but I'll take it. So this is going to go on here, going to get glued in place, going to get clipped in place, and then away we go. Now I'm not going to be gluing this all the way along that edge. I want the building to stay a little bit floppy at this point. It's going to get a lot of internal structure to it anyway in a minute with a platform, which will hold it square. But the reason I want it to stay a little bit floppy is so that I can fit the platform more easily and it'll adjust nicely. So that comes up here. That goes like so. Like that. And again, a couple of clips. And a couple more along the bottom edge. Just for a minute. This again, the advantage of Bostik is it grabs pretty quickly. It still takes a little while to cure, but it does grip quite quickly. See, that's now floppy, but I'm not bothered by that. That's fine. And what we're going to do then is stick this side on here. The instructions make a point. Check what you're doing. The side with 3 windows is where the rails go. And the side with the loading door is the opposite side, obviously, where the platform is. So that's going to go there. It's going to take a few seconds for that to dry. Or at least dry enough I can take the clips off, which is the key bit. Because then I can hold it up so I can fit this piece onto here, like that. Again, square. Now this one I probably could glue square. So I probably will. That'll require me to use the gridding on here, however, in a sec. And this will go on. It's going together actually quite nicely. Yes, I've topped up that corner slightly. I can live with that. This is the other reason I'm not sticking all the ends together first. If I need to trim the other end of this, which I don't think I will. I don't think I need to. I can before it goes together. And then these little bits here are what it's saying are going to go underneath the platform to help support it. and that's fine. And I say under the platform is where I'm going to have some wiring and some connectors. There's enough space. It's, I mean, how long is this thing? What, 6 inch? And the platform's about 2, so yeah, 6 inch by 2 inch by platform height. There's space for some flexible wiring in there, which I think is good. Right, that I think will be enough for that. You do have to be careful not to load this stuff to start with while you're doing this. So this, I'm going to turn around like that. And then what I've got to do is fit that into there, keeping it relatively square. So yeah, can do that. But because I can leave the building opened out at the minute, I can do it quite easily. The other side, the other end of this gets a little bit more difficult, just because it can't be laid flat in quite the same way. Right, so I'm going to put glue in that corner and around here. That. I'm also going to put a bead of glue along that edge, so that this can fit together. Yeah, make sure I get this the right way round. That goes there, that goes there. So, get it lined up to be square, squarish. Square enough is the key bit. Grip the top, that, like that. Press it in, and then I think the bottom's a little bit more difficult. Yeah. It is going to have to go upright, unfortunately. Just so I can do that to get it all together. And I can use the clips to support that. It's a nice inside as well. Sort of a grey colour. A lot of railway buildings are sort of like a grey or a creamy colour on the inside. The instructions note it's slightly weathered, which it is. It's a little bit dirty on the inside, so yeah, that'll do. It's not, I wouldn't say it's fantastically weathered, but it is weathered. Yeah, this will eventually go over here. And the idea is the two ends obviously meet up in the middle, and you don't look at it too closely because there's going to be a join you can see. But that's fine. I mean, in effect, that is going to go over here, like so. That. And then, yes, I am going to have to trim this end here slightly. Not much, just slightly. So I'll do that now. I'll wait for that to dry. And same reasoning. What's happened is this piece here is stretched slightly. So when I do that, there isn't enough space for it to fit in. So, yeah, whatever. I'll just trim a little bit out of this. It's on the inside. You'll never see it. So I'm not too bothered. It'll cope. That's the old good enough is good enough. Now, this is a pretty small goods shed. It's going to have a little. I mean, I'm probably going to make a bigger platform for the outside of it. So at some point, I'm going to have to get a Metcalfe platform kit, which is something I don't currently have. But you know, whatever, that'll do. Right, that side there should be dry enough. That apart. The angle piece won't be yet. That's not going to be strong enough. So that is there. And then this piece comes on. That bit goes there. And it's got a join. And what you do is you slide it up to the join on that side, and then do the same on this side. And this is just making sure the joins fit, and they do. So this is going to go on. And I'm going to glue the outer piece. Basically, because on the outer piece, you can see exactly where the glue needs to go. And I'm going to put this together and keep it flat. So, there we go. Squeeze a bit more glue out of this tube. If the tube is protesting that it's nearly empty, which I think it is, there's a bit more in there. I do have more tubes of this. Yep, need another tube. That one's gone. Like however many modern products, these tubes look as if they've got loads in, but are probably about half full at best. So, yeah. I mean, it could be worse. It could be printer ink, I suppose. So that's that side, and then down there. And repeat over this side, because I'm going to do both at once. A little bit on that end. And this goes on, slides up to the join. Get a clip, get a clip here. This slide here comes around and we do exactly the same thing. Basically, I'm pushing it up to the join first because I want to make sure the join is lined up. Top and bottom, obviously, ideally. Right, and the only other way of doing this now is to lift it onto its end, which is not massively stable, but there's really no other way of doing it. Clipping bits and holding bits. And that's the outer structure done. There are doors and there's other bits and pieces to put on. The platform goes on first, however. So this here goes together. And it's reasonably square. There's an office that goes at one end. I think it's going to go at the other end. It says you can put it on either, which is nice. And what you have to do is glue one of those back in where the office goes. I thought there might be like a door on the inside to get to the office, but there isn't. That's fine. The office is going to get a light. That probably will involve drilling a little hole through the wall to run some wires through. Again, if I'm using single core cable, especially if I'm using fine single core cable, it won't matter. Main building's probably going to get 2 lights. There's a canopy. I might put a light under the canopy. And then the office is going to get some as well. Lighting will be another video, along with going at this, excuse me, with a paintbrush around all of these exposed joins. Spoiler alert, that is extremely simple to do. The colour you use is Games Workshop's ever useful Agrax Earth Shade. It's an acrylic wash. Metcalfe suggests using watercolours, which sounds really good if you can get the appropriate colour. Since I've never found what the appropriate colours are supposed to be, I think the idea is you mix like a bricky red colour. Yeah, not really found one. That is the building, and the idea is keep it reasonably square while bits of it dry. Right, while that dries, let's put that over there. And really, really important, keep it on something flat, otherwise it'll twist. And again, if it twists and the glue dries, well, it's a bit like what your mother used to say, is if you pull a face and the wind changes, you're stuck with it. So, yeah. I'm assuming other people's parents told them that things like that as well. Or maybe it was just me, I don't know. Yeah, right. All right, let's see, this has got a cut piece down here. Hopefully, they've been rather nice, and they haven't. I'm going to have to cut that bit out as well. So this is the inner platform. The smaller one is obviously the outer platform. Now it says that piece folds over, and then there's a brick piece, which I'm going to guess is this one, just because it's the right length, and because the platform piece is a bit different. So yes, yeah, that's that. Now I've got some wagons on pre-order as well. I did look actually. I was pondering earlier getting some tanker wagons. I had an email through from Rails that they've got some dapple tank wagons. I sort of looked at them and go, pretty milk wagons. I'm not sure they're particular. I could use one a through train quite easily. You need like a creamery or a dairy for it to go into. They weren't something that was just unloaded at the side of the track. So yeah, right. This bit here, it's scored lightly. It is pre-scored, but if you score it again yourself, it makes it a lot easier to fold it because that's got to go over there. Let's do another quick score through that. I mean, you could actually cut it off and just stick it on the other side, which might not be a bad idea because this edge is obviously going to need a little bit of paint. But that goes over there to be a platform edge. So where did I put the glue? Around the back of the good shed. It's obviously, it's very good glue. It's gone around the back of the shed for a quiet break. So yes, very, very, very appropriate for the rail industry, which, as I've mentioned to a few people before, I used to work in. I was a maintenance technician with, well, what was then Bombardier, and is now Alstom, working on the Voyagers at the Central Rivers depot. So yeah, if any of you ever travel on a Voyager, my apologies is all I can say to that. Yeah, they're interesting trains, shall we say. One of their quirks, I mean, they used to stink. Two reasons. Firstly, the toilet retention tank is on the inside. Normally it'd be on the underneath, but the bit of the underneath where it would normally be on a Voyager or on the Class 221 Voyagers is where the tilting equipment used to live. Still does on some of them, I think. I don't know if it's still in service. So there wasn't space to put it under there, so the toilet was put on the inside, and then it stayed on the inside on all of them because, well, you want them all to be the same. You don't really want multiple different. You don't really want multiple different designs if you can avoid it. So that was wonderful because occasionally pipework being pipework leaked. It's a toilet retention tank, so when it leaked, describing what leaked as water is charitable at best. So that stank. Wasn't the main problem though. The main problem was the toilet's a vacuum toilet, and there's an ejector mechanism which creates the vacuum. It's a really clever effect how it all works. The problem with that was near one of the fresh air intakes. So as it's venting the toilet tank to the outside world to create vacuum, the fresh air intake is gleefully importing everything that comes out of the tank, which, as you can imagine, has a slight odour to it, shall we say. Charitably, a slight odour. Yeah. So yeah, they used to stink. Yeah, is what it is. They've mostly fixed it now. It was fixed quite a while ago. They moved the outlet so that it's not really near the intake. And funnily enough, the problem went away. Quite how that got past the design stage, I'm not entirely sure, but it did. So yes, as a technician on those, fault finding, fixing cardan shafts, isolating things, changing components at random until problems went away. That sort of thing. So it was fun, briefly. But if you're interested in getting into the rail industry, maintenance on rail vehicles, it's not work that's going away anytime soon, and there's a lot of them. If you're prepared to put in the hours, if you see the jobs advertised and you're interested, apply for it. If you've got any form of like electronic or electrical or mechanical background, Yeah, you've done maintenance work on road vehicles. Apply. Seriously, apply. You may not get a chance, but you might. And to be fair, it is quite a good industry to work in. You have to work hard. There's no two ways around it. It is quite hard physical work. The hours are remarkably antisocial because you're usually working nights. Right, that needs to fold around but not be done just yet. But yeah, just go for it. Right, that needs to go on there. But yes, that was sort of my introduction into the rail industry. Obviously, I've had train sets since I was younger, but what used to please me no end, my youngest, say my youngest, he's 25 now and he's in the army, and he's going up in the ranks. I'm not saying where and whatever, because obviously security being what security is, but yeah, he's doing well for himself. But we had an open day at one of the sites. It's quite rare. They don't do it very often, but they did. And he was quite young at the time, but he was used to like it when I was being dropped off at work, because you went into the car park so I could get dropped off, and obviously it's right alongside some of the train sidings, and he's small boy at this point, and his eyes are absolutely wide about the trains, because obviously, as he said at the time, trains have wheels. And he's not wrong, they do. It became a little bit of an obsession, actually, for one point, of things having wheels. We had a cat at the time, Star. Well, it's Star and Mook, mostly Star, and he came out with cats have wheels, and it's like, no, cats don't have wheels. Cats have feet. This was followed by an absolutely epic tantrum of cats have wheels and screaming, which I thought was. I know with small children you're supposed to treat them with a lot of respect, but it was very, very hard not to just laugh at this. I think he was about 3 or 4 at the time, just absolutely screaming cats have wheels. I thought it was quite entertaining. But if you've, it's one of the things, I mean, next time you're at a station, have a look at the track opposite you and see just how much is below the height of the platform. The reason I say that is trains are quite big. I mean, you might think, well, of course they're big. They're a lot bigger than you might think. They're a lot taller. There is quite a lot of it below the platform height that you don't normally see. You gain a respect for it when you're stood at the side of the thing and you have to get into it, and there isn't a platform. It's not too hard at the cab ends because there are steps. But if you're not at the cab ends, it can be quite awkward to get into them. You can do it. You just have to climb up. But there we go. So that is yon internal platform. Now, this is obviously a card kit. There are MDF kits for this sort of building. There are etched plastic kits for this sort of building. You can get 3D printed versions of this sort of building where there's a lot more relief on the brickwork, whereas this is obviously just card. It's fine. I think if you've got a really small layout, like you're doing a little shunting layout, it's probably worth going to the effort of finding a detailed goods yard, station building, all this sort of stuff. In a platform tab, fold in half and glue. Right, so I need to do a few of these. So yeah, it's probably worth having a good one. This Leopard Street is quite a large station. I mean, the actual station deck itself is 14 foot long and 2.5 foot wide. So it is quite a big station. As you saw, or you may have seen in the recent video with the running session at the end, I am still very, very much learning how this layout works. Specifically, little things like just how long it takes to shunt coaches from one platform to another. But anyway, so yeah, you've got this is quite a largish layout. As such, this goods shed is a small part of a larger layout. So the fact it's a Metcalfe card kit, I'm not bothered about. I don't think that's a problem. It firmly comes under the heading of it's good enough. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. I like these kits. They're very easy to work with. As I'm hoping I'm demonstrating, they are quite easy to build. They're easy to modify as well. I mean, not just the little bits where I've not quite put it like this. There's a skill issue. I'll be honest here. There is a skill issue. But if you forget about that, you can modify these kits quite easily. A simple example would be if you wanted a goods shed twice as long. If you had two of these kits, it would not be particularly hard to turn them into a single larger goods shed lengthwise. You'd struggle a bit doing it widthwise. If you wanted a shed that's track in a platform track, you'd struggle. At that point, you're really talking scratch building. Just build your own at that point. Which again is not that hard. I mean, you could easily get one of these kits. Metcalfe do brick papers and so on and so forth. You could get one of these kits, or potentially two of them, depending on what you're trying to do with it, and use a lot of pieces from that. That would be quite easy to do as well. Right, I'm just going to clamp these together as a pair. These little bracing pieces to go on the inside. It notes when you put the platform in, you put it in. Be careful with it because the glue on there is not fully cured yet. I think you put it in from the underneath. I'm going to guess you put it in from the underneath. That bit goes through the door. The editor's decision is final, as I've often said on these things, that it will go through the door eventually. Now I see it's catching on the inside. It doesn't want to necessarily want to go through the door. Don't make me do it. Don't make me do it. Yes, there is a little notch under the base there for that to slot it through. So that goes through the door. It will go through the door, honest. What I'm actually going to do is just shave this little platform piece slightly. It will, I dare say, I can make this fit. However, I would rather it fits easily. And the way I'm going to achieve that is just chop a little piece off this here. But yes, anyway, back to rambling. Yeah, you can do a lot with these kits. You really can modify them quite heavily. You get down to how much time and effort do you want to spend on it? Would you be better putting that effort into just using a different kit, using a different building, possibly a plastic kit? I mean, there are plenty of those about. Ratio do some rather nice ones. They're quite old now, though, those kits. And then there's others. These days, it's more likely to be a laser cut kit, or some of the other painted ones, printed ones rather, kits. If you have a 3D printer, they're very useful for this hobby. What I would say for something like this is you could quite easily 3D print a goods shed shell and then apply brick paper to it. I'm not going to go through that hole now. Yes, see that goes through there. Platform goes in like that. You have earth and platform. And what we've got is these bracing pieces now go on the inside to hold it all in place. But that goes in there like so. And it's got some little cutout notches to fit around the ends of the columns there, which I quite like that. And like I say, I've got the wire coming up one of these corners. I was going to bring it up on the inside, but I think since I have got holes, I actually got holes at both ends. I could put one more. I could put one wire in each end and have a positive at one side and have the cathode feeds go down the other. What do I think about that? But yeah, that's going to fit in there. That little lip folds over and gets glued underneath. But first, I need to put these in. And there's a couple of ways of doing this. I'm tempted to glue the supporting brackets in and then just use super glue around the edges of it. That might work. If I just take the platform back out, I'm going to stick these supporting pieces down. It says to put one at each end, which I'm going to do, and they go flush with the base, and then 2 along the front edge. So that can go in there like that. Press it in, and then obviously put a clamp on it while it dries. In fact, I'll put 2 clamps on it while it dries. That'll hold that. I'm going to have to put it this way up while I do this, but that's fine. Do that. And do this end as well. Yeah, so there's lots you can do. I mean, the reason I'm building this now, I'll say I'm laying out the track, or at least the point work for the depot area. Sort of the depot area, the goods area. And as a result, I want to know exactly how much space this shed needs. Because I want it to fit in exactly where it needs to be. And this will tell me exactly where I need to route the tracks around it. Like that. I shall leave that a sec. I'll just lay it on its side. So the idea I'm going to have is there's obviously a track going through this. There's going to be a long siding that comes around the back. I just need the clearance. As you can see, there's a little bit of a gap there. It met up at the top. It didn't quite meet up at the bottom, which means it's not completely square. That will be hidden with a bit of weathering. Because there's going to be a piece of track along here. There'll be a little bit of ballast. And what I'll do is I'll just spray some dirt along the bottom edge. You really can't see the difference in the 2 brick colours. They're off different sheets within the kit. So I suspect what it is they're different print batches. I'm not complaining. I think it looks all right. Right, so that should be it for those. I need to do the 2 other ones. I'm going to get this bit done and we'll be back in a moment. You can see some bits of this are quite small and fiddly to grip and clamp. It's just folding this little edge piece under here. And then we've got the doors to do, which is what I've just made. These the green pieces. They can get stuck in. Then it's onto the roof structure, which has, as I say, I'm going to fit loosely. The canopy roof, I believe the canopy roof part of it, or is the canopy roof a separate piece? Canopy roof is a separate piece. Canopy roof I can stick on, I think, because I've got access to punch a hole through the back for some wires if necessary. Well, if necessary. If I'm putting a light under the canopy, it will be necessary. The alternative is I've got some wall lights I could put to either side. A little bit of wiring on the inside to hide if I do that. What I'm thinking of doing is just putting a single LED at the top pointing down. I've done it on N-gauge canopies, so I'm fairly sure a 3mm LED will fit. Failing that, I've got some 1.8mm. And failing that, I've got some surface mount flat ones, which will definitely fit. So, yeah. Right, hopefully that's that. Stuck enough. That's the structure. We've got doors. Now, which way round do the doors go? Mm-hmm. Let's have a little look. Yeah. Fold them against this and insert them in a position of your choice. The idea is obviously they just stick in, so they're just slightly visible. You could obviously model them closed. Not sure why you would, but you could. And this then obviously hides the bit there. So if we're going to do that, I'm going to put them. Interesting. The two doors are identical. I would have thought they'd be mirror imaged, but they're not. What I'm going to do is stick them so they are slightly open. So we should put a bit of glue on there. And that can go onto here. Now they don't have to be open by an identical amount either. And you notice you don't have the sliding bracketry or anything like that on the inside. Essentially, there's not a lot of point. You won't see it. I know detailing up the inside of buildings can be really, really fun. You're not going to see it. This one may get some detailing added, in as far as I might add some sacks, barrels, boxes, that sort of thing. They have the doors. Now that is the main structure complete. So we're now onto the roof. So I can put that to one side, let that dry. These are apparently, it says these are self-adhesive backed roof trusses. I have my doubts. I suspect at one point they might have been, but they don't appear to be now. So this is a very typical 3D laser cut card, rather. There are lots of little bits that aren't cut that you need to cut through in order to break it out. Usually it's not too bad. What I tend to find is just little pieces like corners are left attached. It's basically part of the process, really. It's they've got to be left attached slightly to transport them. So that's that. That'll come off. I've got this end here. Again, it's just these two little bits here. Now these trusses ideally are going to need painting as well. Hopefully these middle bits will come out fairly easily. So yes, I'm going to end up probably painting these in green. Won't be a problem. They're going to get built. They're going to get stuck to the roof. They slot into the building, which is rather nice. So I can do that while I hold them in place. I'm then going to be able to cut the roof out, stick the roof on, and hopefully glue it to these. It'll take its shape from these, along with some alignment, and then I'll be able to remove the whole roof. Because I'm going to put lights in, obviously I need to be able to get at the light roof in order to do that. I'm also going to paint the underside of the roof black. The walls of this are quite thick card. I don't really have any problems with light bleed through 4 layers of grey board. I don't think that's going to be much of a problem. I'm using an LED. I'm not using a Xeon searchlight or anything like that. But I suspect a single layer of card for the roof is going to end up leaking light. So this now needs scoring nicely down there so that it can... See, that folds. If I bring the building back in, it sits like that. And there's going to be another one. So if you do look in, there is actually a little bit of roof detail. There are some big skylights on this, which is the other reason that actually some detail on the inside is needed. And a little bit of care is needed as to where the glue goes and where wires run and so on and so forth. That's that. Just need to knock out that corner. And this again can have a couple of clips put on it. Just while that dries, and I'll do the other one. Back in a sec. Right, let's put this together. Now I suspect I'm going to have to stop assembly at this point because I think I'm going to have to paint these before I glue the roof on, because the roof goes, the roof goes on quite nicely, but you can see those struts through it, those girders. So I'm going to have to paint those before this goes on, because this is going to get glued to those rafters. Then it'll be removable. But obviously you can see these bits. So the glue on that needs to cure. That'll then need painting. I'll paint the inside of that. That'll then get glued on to the joins. Then I can look at putting the dust off the glass. Then I can look at putting the lights in, which will be fitted into the roof with a few wires which can just get done down there. Yeah. Right, so I'm going to wrap this one up here, because I say that now needs glue to dry and other bits. I've got the platforms to do. I've got the little office bit to do. Do those all off camera because they're basically the same process. What do we think of the kit? Yeah, I like it. It's not quite the design I was expecting. I would sort of expected the sides and these to be separate pieces rather than it folding around the way it did, but it works. That over there. The inside's quite nice. I like the fact it's got these roof joins in rather than just pieces of card that you stick on the underneath to strengthen it. They'll obviously help strengthen the building quite significantly when it is all glued together. But yeah, that works. So, that's that. I'll catch you in the next one. I'm not quite sure what I'll be doing in the next one, but hopefully I'll be able to show you this done. I'll do the lighting in another video. But yeah, this has been Leopard Street. Thank you very much for watching. Likes, comments, shares, etc. more than welcome. Do you like build videos? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to be doing more of them because I'm going to be doing more kits. Suggestions on how to format them are good. Do you like this sort of format with sped up and rambling or what? Anyway, enjoy the rest of your week. I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.